so I want to get started on it.
Who we got behind me?
It's Angela. Hi. Hi.
Okay, what is heart disease?
I don't know.
There's several different kinds of things that can affect the heart. There's coronary artery disease, which is the one they go in and they crack open your chest and replace the arteries, and it's quite a deal. It's the leading cause of heart attacks. And when you have coronary artery disease, your arteries become hard and narrow. The blood has a hard time getting through to the heart, so the heart does not get all the blood it needs. And it can lead to angina, which is chest pain or discomfort that happens when the heart doesn't get enough blood flow, enough oxygen, and so it literally cramps. When the heart cramps, you know you got trouble. So it may feel like a pressing or a squeezing pain. It's often in the chest, but sometimes you can feel it back in your shoulders, your arms, your neck, your jaw, your back. And it can feel like indigestion in some people, like an upset stomach, bringing acid up. It can feel like that. Angina is not a heart attack, but having angina means you're more likely to have a heart attack. So now I've got a little story to bring in here. 2 weeks ago, my wife heard on Facebook that one of her classmates' husband died of a heart attack, sudden heart attack, 43 years old. Not very old, but heart disease is getting younger and younger and younger because of all the sugar we're eating, and I'll go into that and show you why. But this kid, 43 years old, he was having angina, and all of a sudden he died. You know, left behind a wife and 4 little kids, because I think his oldest kid was only 9. And so now he's got, you know, an ex-dead dead man leaving a wife and 4 kids. You know, kind of an interesting story. But I look back at my life, and when I was young, I developed rheumatic heart disease from staph. Well, excuse me, it was from streptococcus. And what it did to my heart was it made my valves so they got calcified and they didn't seat right. And so I developed a really loud murmur when I was just a little kid. And I was really tired all the time. And so my mom had a good friend who was a heart specialist, and she took me to him, and he said, oh, he's going to need to have his valves replaced. But we don't want to replace him yet because he's grown, and by the time he's 10, he'll either be able to get the valves replaced at age 10, or he'll be too weak and we'll just let him die. And that's what I remember as a 5-year-old kid. I remember them saying I'd end up with some pig valves or I would die. And so when I was a little kid, I just lived my life as if I was going to die. So I just did what I wanted.
Oh boy.
I know that sounds strange, but I did. And you know, it was interesting because as a little kid, I knew candy was not good for me because it always gave me chest pain. So when I'd go trick-or-treating, I'd go get all the trick-or-treats I could, and then the rest of the year I'd sell them to the dumb kids that wanted to buy them from me.
Oh my.
You know, so I made money by doing trick-or-treat, and then I'd sell my candies because I knew they weren't good for me. But when I was 10 years old, my mom was so poor that she didn't ever take me back to the cardiologist. And so I never got in line to get pig valves or anything. So when we moved down to Cedar City, and we got enough money, you know, my mom married an engineer, and so he had enough money that we actually started eating better. Eating better foods actually made my chest feel better and my heart feel better. And so I learned at a very early age, you need to eat right. Then, at age 11, I wanted to play baseball. And my new dad was a sports fanatic. He loved football, baseball, basketball, whatever. So having me be in these sports, he loved doing it because he always wanted a son that was in sports. So, and me, I just wanted to play my heart out because I knew, I could die at any minute.
I live with that.
So instead of being, more passive, because all of the doctors I went to when I got examined when I was a kid, they all required sports physicals. And I'd go to these sports physicals and the doctors would say, you probably shouldn't play baseball. You probably shouldn't play football. You probably shouldn't play basketball. You should just kind of take it easy and rest. And I was like, to hell with this. I want to play, So basically I went and I did sports. And believe it or not, they were really good for me. They developed muscles, they developed my lungs, they helped, I didn't care about my heart. I would have chest pain when I was out there playing with the other kids, but I didn't care because I knew I wanted to play the sports. So anyway, did I have a heart attack during that time? I could have. I don't know. But when I was growing up, I didn't care. So I just did what I wanted to do. And what was really stupid was I took up smoking when I was 11. This kid in Cedar, we went to the store and he stole a pack of cigarettes and he brought them out. We sat out by the little canal there in Cedar City and smoked every one of them. And it was really interesting because in junior high, we have a picture in the yearbook of me and my friends all sitting out there smoking by a tree outside the school building. What?
Did you
actually
actually
smoke and inhale, or did you just
Well,
in and out?
I sort of knew it was bad for me, so I really didn't inhale, but, I was getting nicotine through my
If you
mouth.
inhaled, you would have stopped that day probably.
Yes, yeah, and I didn't cough a lot. And what made me stop was in 8th grade, we had the 600-yard run. And I got about halfway around the track, and I could not breathe. I could not continue. And then and there, I decided it was the smoking that was causing it, so I quit. And so the reason I'm telling you this story is I have a long history of heart disease, way long history. And I dealt with it differently than most of the people around me. By the time I was 19, I'd quit smoking, quit being a bad kid in 8th grade, actually. I had a near-death experience which made me cut out all the bad stuff, and I actually became a very good kid, but I still continued in sports and different things. And then it came time for a mission, to go on a mission with the LDS Church. And, I felt like I was supposed to go. So it was interesting. Me and my friends came down to St. George, and Spencer Kimball was giving a talk in the Dixie Center. And when we saw him walk in, the whole place lit up. And, I was questioning whether I should go on a mission or not. Because, I had a bad heart and all this stuff. And I wanted to become a doctor, and I figured 2 years out of my life would slow me down with that. But anyway, when we saw him come in, all of a sudden I knew I was supposed to go on a mission. And so I went on a mission, and when I had my physical for the mission, the doctor said to me, we better keep you stateside because your heart sounds really bad, and we want you to have medical care available for you. And so I'm going to put on here that I'm going to restrict you to the United States. And I was really angry because I wanted to go wherever God wanted me to go. So anyway, served a mission. Didn't have any problem except when a car hit me going about 60 miles an hour and broke my, threw me against the telephone pole, made me have another near-death experience. And it was really interesting because when I woke up and threw the sheet off, all the women in the hospital, they're like, "Estaba muerta, estaba, he was dead, he was dead." And here I am sitting up and I'm saying, "No, I'm not dead, I'm fine, And it was interesting because they re-x-rayed me and I didn't have a broken bone in my body. And the first x-ray showed that my back was broken, I had a broken femur, all kinds of stuff. And so it was a miracle. But anyway, went to the medical school, and in the 3rd year when everybody's doing physical diagnosis, everybody loved listening to my hearts because they could hear the problem with the valves. And it was very loud, and so, a lot of people with deaf ears could even hear my heart problem. So anyway, go to medical school, did an internship, did my residency as an OBGYN, which is probably the worst profession to get if you've got a bad heart, because you're up all night, you're taxing yourself, you're working very hard. So I got finished with that, was doing fine, except I was drinking a 6-pack of Coke a day to keep me awake at night so I could deliver babies. Now, 45 years old, I stopped being an OBGYN, but I was still working very hard. Had the feeling I needed to go to Yosemite because I was having a lot of heart pain, a lot of angina, the stuff that precedes the heart attack. And anyway, I was eating right. I was giving myself cayenne pepper, which is a very good thing to do if you've got coronary artery disease, because I learned that it would help burn the plaques out. And I knew I had coronary artery disease because I'd undergone a sinus scan and for chest pain down in Phoenix, and they found my ejection fraction wasn't the best and all this stuff. But I didn't care because I'd been told when I was 5 years old I was going to die from a heart attack or problems if I didn't get my valves replaced, and I hadn't gotten replaced up till then. So anyway, I planned. The Spirit told me go to Yosemite, and I had a good friend that in my ward up in Cedar City, Jim, I'll think of his last name. But anyway, he had retired from the LA Police Department, Sheriff's Department, LA Sheriff's Department, and he was actually an EMT, so he knew emergency medical stuff, and he dealt with a lot of people with heart attacks. And anyway, he invited me to go hike Half Dome in Yosemite National Park. And he told me, there's a lot of people, it's very stressful, it takes 2 days for most people to do it, but we were going to go up in one day and down, up and down. And I figured, if I can do this, I can do about anything. So we went to Yosemite, and it was a very, very spiritual experience for me because when I first started going up, my daughter, I was told that I was supposed to get divorced from my wife, and I was working towards that, and I was wanting my kids to be with me. This was like my last hurrah because I had told my wife we're getting divorced, and I couldn't stand her lifestyle because hers was totally different from mine because I was trying to be healthy and she was addicted to drugs. And this was before Vicky, by the way. Vicky wasn't this person. And anyway, we get to Yosemite, and my 2 youngest kids are with me on this hike. And about 2 miles up, Camille just starts having horrible pain in her left knee. And I was a Reiki master, so I put my hands on her knee and I said to her, I see some darkness and you need to forgive your mother, because the knee represents your mother, your right knee represents your father. And when you have pain or problems in either of your knees, that's where it's coming from. And I said to her, you need to forgive your mother. And Camille is an amazing person. She believes in everything I tell her, and she was only 12 years old at the time, and she said, okay, Dad, what do I do? And I said, just say, I forgive you, Mother. And so she said that, and immediately the white light came into her knee, and she was fine, and she hiked the rest of the way up. And it's a 9.2 mile hike up, and so about 4 miles up, my son starts having pain in his left knee.
Same thing.
What? Same thing. I put my hands on his knee and I say, Stephen, you need to forgive your mother. And he's like, Dad, I don't believe in your voodoo. I'm not going to say it. I just want to go back down. It's just hurting too bad, so don't make me climb. And I said, Stephen, you need to go on this hike with me. And Camille piped in. She says, come on, Stephen, do it. My knee's feeling good. Just say the words, I forgive you, Mother, and you'll be fine. And he would just fought us over it, and then finally, begrudgingly, he said, okay, I forgive you, Mom. And immediately, white light went into his knee, and He actually made it to the top before anybody else. So anyway, about 2 miles from the top, I start having the worst chest pain of my life. I feel like an elephant sitting on my chest. My heart's just racing, my legs won't move, my left arm's going numb, you know, all the classic signs of a heart attack. And my friend looks at me and he says, Scott, you don't look so good. You better just lay down here and, you know, take it easy and you will, I'll go up to the top and tell the ranger, because they always had a ranger up on top because people have heart attacks going up this mountain. And it happens every day, believe it or not. I'm surprised they don't have you pass a physical before you go up that. But anyway, I have to lay down, and Camille stayed with me. She says that I turned purple and stopped breathing. And what was interesting was what happened to me was I was just laying there thinking I was resting. And I hear this voice and it says, you need to let go. I'm like, what do I need to let go of? And it says, you need to let go of your wife. And I'm like, well, I love her and I'm going to help her. Even though I'm getting divorced, I'm going to take care of her. And the voice says, if you don't let go of her today, you'll never make it off this mountain. And so all of a sudden I felt real serious about what was going on because I was having a heart attack. And for all I knew, you know, I was fine because I was kind of out in a zone of spiritualism. And I said to the spirit, well, how do I let go? It says, take back your energy. And I'm like, why do I need to take back my energy? And the voice said, you're giving 65% of your vital force to your wife. And you need to take back your energy because you need it for yourself. And I was like, you know, I kind of fought with the spirit because Susan had fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. She was always in pain, and she had to take a lot of drugs to keep her out of pain, out of anxiety, and those kind of things. And I was thinking, you know, I'm okay to do this. And the spirit said, no, you can't do what you're supposed to do if you're giving all your energy to your wife. So anyway, I said, okay, what do I do? And it said, state the statement, you know, just like my kids had to forgive their mother, I had to take back my energy from my wife. And so the spirit said, say, I take back all my energy. And so I fought for a couple of minutes, and then I decided, okay, I better just do this. And so, because I'd learned, follow the spirit, because it never tells you not to do something right. So I took and I said, I take back all my energy. And immediately, the chest pain went away. And I sat up, scared the heck out of my daughter because she thought I was dead. And I probably was for a few minutes. Got my color back, and I said to her, we've got to get to the top of the mountain and tell them not to send the helicopter. Because, you know, helicopters aren't cheap, and I didn't carry insurance. So I had more energy than I'd had in years. And I go running up this mountain. Camille barely could keep up with me. And as I don't know if you've ever been up Half Dome, but it's the big dome in Yosemite. And we're going up the side of this thing. And it's got cables that you have to just pull yourself up. And I went up that thing so fast, everybody was cheering me. And, you know, here I just was dead. And I get almost to the top, my friend's coming down the top, and I yell at him and I tell him, go tell him not to send the helicopter, I'm fine. And he looks down at me and he says, Scott, how the hell did you get up here? You know, because he thought I was dead too. So anyway, to make a long story short, a heart attack occurs when our arteries are severely or completely blocked. And the heart does not get the blood flow it needs for more than 20 minutes. we figured I was gone for about 15 minutes.